Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode one of the Good Game Podcast. I am your host, A1K, and I'm hoping everybody is having a great day and a good time. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to episode one of the Good Game Podcast. And with this show, we want to take a little dive into a couple of things that have been going on in today's world and just shed some light and give some perspective on what's going on and hopefully provide you guys with some useful information that you could use. But before I get into it, I want to make sure you guys hit that like button if you're listening to this on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Make sure you share the video with somebody who may want to get this information. And if you want to see more episodes, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button because we need more subscribers in order to fuel more episodes and get more content to you guys. So, without further ado, let's get right into it, man. So, first and foremost, we want to talk about the Paris Olympics. So, the Paris Olympics started last week. The first official day was last Friday, July 26th, 2024. And a lot of people had a lot to say about the opening ceremony. So if you watched the opening ceremony, you probably already know what some of the complaints were. And a lot of people felt that it was somewhat offensive to certain religious groups. And I don't want to get into too much detail, but there definitely were some images and things that could have been taken as offensive by some people. But I believe that it's not necessary to be offended by what transpired during the opening ceremony of the Olympics. I believe it was all in good fun and good spectacle, and there were a lot of pageantry going on. And this is something that's very typical to the Olympics. I mean, if you watch any other opening ceremony in previous times, there have always been elements that seem to be somewhat over the top. So I think this is no different. However, there were still groups of people who felt offended. And I would like to say, in my opinion, I feel that, people take things a little too seriously at times. And there really is no reason to be offended by something as harmless as an opening ceremony. I think people should just enjoy the games, watch these tremendous athletes who have worked their entire lives to perform at the highest level and just be entertained. This is what it's all about. This is all about entertainment. This is not meant to offend anybody. This is not meant to cause any disruption between any religious groups. I believe this is a good time for us to all just come together and get along. So with that being said, I hope that whoever was offended by the opening ceremony will somehow find it in their heart to not take things so serious and understand that the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games was meant to bring people together and not cause any disdain between the couple hundred countries that were participating. I believe it was something around 200 countries that showed up to the Olympics. And, we all just want to come together and have a good time and show some peace and harmony, especially with all the hardships and hard times that are going on around the world right now. Now, I find it interesting that the artistic director did come out and apologize and that he did not want to, he came out saying that he didn't want to take any attention away from the Last Supper and his references. Um, he referenced the opening ceremony saying that it hadn't been his intention to draw attention away from the Last Supper. He wanted to talk about diversity. He wanted to bring people together and he wanted to really highlight inclusion. And that's simply all he was trying to do. So, I'm glad that he apologized, even though he probably didn't have to. But this is just one of the things that we like to see because we don't want anybody to feel offended or get their feelings hurt. And with that being said, that's all I got to say about that. Before we move on, make sure you guys, if you haven't already, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, share the video, and let's get into our next topic. So, a little NFL news here. We're going to transition to the National Football League. Quarterback Lamar Jackson energized Ravens in first full training camp practice. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited for the NFL season. Wow. I'm very excited. I feel like this is going to be one of the best NFL seasons in recent history. And I feel like the Baltimore Ravens are a big part of it. When you look at the roster additions they made, when you look at the signing of Derrick Henry, excuse me, at that running back position, I personally think that the Baltimore Ravens have potential to be one of the best offenses in the NFL. And I say that because you have two guys in a Lamar Jackson and a Derrick Henry who can easily rush for 1,000 yards. Not to mention the passing yards you can get from Lamar Jackson, but both of these individuals could easily rush for 1,000 yards apiece. Now, will that necessarily happen? I don't know. But I think that when you consider the fact that the Baltimore Ravens were so close to making the Super Bowl last year, had it not been for a drop pass by a certain receiver who will remain nameless, I don't want to put anybody on blast, but the Ravens were that close, and I mean by a hair close to making it to the big game. And I think the addition of Derrick Henry was great. I think that if Lamar Jackson stays healthy and Derrick Henry stay healthy, I think they're going to be a dynamic 1-2 punch. And they're going to give NFL defenses a lot to deal with. Now, Lamar Jackson was reportedly having a good training camp. He seems to be ready to be a leader of the team. And once again, he's a two-time MVP. So anytime you have a two-time MVP and you pair him with a running back like Derrick Henry, I mean, the potential for the offense is just explosive. I mean, you have two guys who are very explosive, who can also, you can also consider the addition of the run pass option in the playbook. You can consider the flea flicker and the trick plays that can be pulled off between these two athletes. I mean, there's just so many possibilities offensively. And I think that head coach Jim Harbaugh is going to have a lot of fun with these two guys in his offense. And just think about it from, a fan perspective. Like if I was playing Madden football, I would choose the Baltimore Ravens and I would just run pass options, mix in a couple of, screen plays and things like that. But a very run heavy offense. And if the defense can just be decent and not give away too many points, I mean, you have a very, very strong team on both sides of the ball. So we like to see that. We like to see that, and we're looking forward to the NFL season. We're coming up on preseason in a handful of weeks here, so it'll be interesting to see how a couple of these teams look. I think that, we know that the San Francisco 49ers are going to be back. They're going to be good. They're going to look strong. I think that teams like Miami are going to look good. Of course, Baltimore is going to look good. We're going to have Kansas City. They're always going to be in contention. So definitely excited to see that, and we're looking forward to it. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to this next topic. But before I do, make sure if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share the video. Make sure you do all these things because this is what we need from you guys in order to make new episodes. So if you like what you've heard so far, make sure you hit that like button and let's get into our next topic. So moving on to some MLB news. Yankees acquired outfielder Jazz Chisholm Jr. from Marlins for prospects. So if you guys follow the MLB, you may be familiar with Jazz Chisholm. So he played for the Miami Marlins for a couple of seasons. This is somebody who started his career usually in the second base position, but has played some outfield, primarily center field. And he's even had some time playing shortstop and even third base. I think that this is a good pickup for New York. I think that when you look at the infield of the New York Yankees, they definitely need some help. So they're definitely getting some use from him in that regard. Also, if you look at the lineup, I mean, this is a left-handed hitter who has some speed, who gets on base, and he definitely can generate a lot of runs for guys like Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Giancarlo Stanton, so on and so forth. So I think this is a great pickup. I think the lineup gets a lot better as far as, guys who can hit doubles, triples, steal bases. And not only does the lineup get better, but you have a guy who can be an asset as far as fielding. So, if you, whether it be second base, third base, shortstop, I think he has a lot of value in that regard. I don't think they'll have him play a lot of outfield unless, injuries or they want to give guys breaks or whatever the case. But this is a good pickup. I mean, definitely bolsters the lineup in terms of speed. And I think, and if you look at the way baseball is being played today with, the banning of the shifting of the infielders and the way guys are hitting a lot more singles and doubles, I think this is a good idea for the Yankees to get guys on their team with more speed, not necessarily guys who are more power hitters because they already have, guys who can hit home runs and knock, the ball 500, 450 yards or 450 feet rather. So you really need guys who can do things like get on base, hit doubles, hit singles, a triple every now and then. Even, guys who can bunt and get on base like that way. And I think that Jazz is perfect in that regard. So great job with the New York Yankees picking up Jazz Chisholm, who's currently batting around 250, 13 home runs, and a 730 OPS, which is not too bad. The Yankees were already a strong team. I think a lot of people had them as one of the favorites heading to October to make a postseason run. And, this definitely is a very solid addition. Now, I think that, I am a Dodgers fan first and foremost, so I have to say that the Los Angeles Dodgers definitely have the best lineup, in my humble opinion. When you consider the likes of Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, and a Freddie Freeman, I mean, and these guys have had some health issues. They've had some injury issues in the past, but if all things being equal and injuries out of the question, I believe that the LA Dodgers have the best lineup in baseball, especially the top three. So I just had to throw that out there, but definitely am excited to see what the New York Yankees can do. I'm a big Jazz Chisholm fan. I've been a fan of him ever since he was the cover athlete on MLB The Show 2024, I believe was the cover. So, and he's definitely a guy who's gotten a bad rep as of lately. But Miami is a franchise where they're not really the best at developing and keeping talent. I mean, they just traded away a guy in the likes of uh, Arias, and this was somebody who at one time was leading the league in batting average. So I'm pretty sure they're doing a lot of shuffling of the deck and moving things around down in Miami. But it's never a good thing when people who are considered the best players on the team end up getting traded. So it's good for New York, it's good for San Diego, but Miami, I gotta ask, I gotta question you guys a little bit. What's going on? A lot of good players don't seem to stay over there. So, but good on New York, and we'll definitely be excited to see what comes from them in the coming months. So, with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to some NBA news. But before I do, if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and make sure you share the video. We want to get as many likes as we can, and we want to get as many subs as we can. So, if you guys have liked what's been going on so far in the episode, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's get into it. So continuing on, moving along here with some NBA news. I know a lot of you guys have been watching USA men's basketball in the Olympics. And what we have here is Jason Tatum to see floor in the second Olympic game versus South Sudan. So for those of you that don't know, Team USA men's basketball has been, I'll say, going through some struggles. Of course, they are the best team in all of Olympics men's basketball by far, but in the game of basketball, sometimes things happen and teams just outplay you regardless of talent level. And that's exactly what we had in game one. Now, men's basketball team was able to pull out the victory, a narrow victory, I might add, against South Sudan. So I'll definitely be interested to see what adjustments are made in game two. Head coach Steve Kerr has already said that Jason Tatum will play, although he did not get a lot of playing time in game one. I think when it comes to these Olympic basketball games, it's very hard to figure out the perfect rotation and the perfect amount of time to play guys, especially when you have all this talent on a USA men's basketball team. And, we know Steve Kerr definitely is one of the greatest basketball minds of all time. So we have to trust his judgment and trust his decision making. Now, I think that basketball has become a much more global sport in recent times. I think that countries like South Sudan have definitely caught up, and the talent level has increased tremendously. So, with that being said, USA men's basketball has to take these countries a lot more serious on the basketball court. Now, South Sudan is a team that is definitely loaded with athleticism. They spread the floor, they have three-point shooters. So they give USA men's basketball a lot to think about defensively. Now, I'm not going to sit here and try to tell Steve Kerr what to do with his rotations or with his lineups because I know he knows how to put his players in the best position to win. But you have to understand that this is something that the world is watching, and people are going to judge every decision that's being made down to the amount of minutes guys play, the amount of minutes guys don't play. So I think that Steve Kerr has a lot of tools to work with. I think he'll figure it out. I think he's studying matchups a little differently after that first game. I think that South Sudan definitely caught USA off guard. I like what Steve Kerr did with the three centers in Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis, Ben Adebayo in his rotation. I think that the more you play a team, the more you see a team run sets, the more you see what a team is good at and what a team is not good at. I think that gives you more of examples of what to do and what not to do. And I think they'll figure it out. The Olympics only come around every 4 years, so it's kind of hard to gauge where certain countries and certain teams are at on a consistent basis, especially early in the beginning of these Olympics. But I think that as guys start to play together more, as guys start to build more chemistry, they'll definitely have a better results going forward. It's just, in the beginning, you got to get some of those cobwebs off. Some of these guys haven't played since the season ended. So, but they'll be okay. I believe they'll be okay long term. Steve Kerr released a statement saying that the hardest part of his job is you're sitting at least a couple of guys who are world class, some of the very best players on earth. On one hand, it makes no sense at all. On the other, I'm asking these guys to just commit to winning one game and then move on to the next one. I had to do the same thing, and so I felt like last night those were combinations that made the most sense. And I think that Steve Kerr was going to do what makes the most sense at the time. And I think that although Tatum only averaged about 7 points in Team USA's five exhibition games, he played about 16 minutes and scored 9 points against the Bright Stars last week in London. And again, the US won by a single point. With South Sudan, they're a very fast team. They can shoot the ball very effectively, and they potentially can give USA men's basketball a run for their money. But I think when you look at the experience USA team has and from the coaching staff to the players. And any team with LeBron James and Steph Curry is definitely going to be a favorite. But I think people expected the USA to blow out South Sudan on the scoreboard. And because that didn't happen, there's already going to be doubts and there's already going to be people saying that this team may struggle going forward. But I don't think that necessarily be the case. I think that, the game of basketball is so much about runs and guys' mentality. And because IQ plays a part of it and physicality and experience, all these things come together and play a factor. So I'm definitely riding with Team USA men's basketball for sure. I think that they'll definitely win the gold medal. I think some of these teams will probably be a lot stronger than expected. But ultimately, leadership of these guys, LeBron, Steph, Jason Tatum, Steve Kerr, they're gonna figure it out. They're gonna figure it out. They're gonna get it done, and they're gonna win gold. So that's my opinion on that. And with that being said, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the next topic. Make sure you guys like the video, hit that subscribe button, and share the video. So moving on here, this is some news I'm very excited about. We're talking about some WNBA news as the WNBA secures a monumental media deal with Disney, Amazon, and NBCU. So the WNBA announced a new 11-year media rights deal Wednesday. This would be July 24th, 2024, featuring partnerships with Disney, Amazon Prime Video, and new rights holder NBC Universal. This deal is valued at about 2.2 billion or $200 million per year, according to ESPN. But future agreements with additional partners could bring the league's overall media deals closer to $3 billion. Now, I think this is a big deal because if you look at the rising in popularity of the WNBA, it's only right that deals like these happen, especially because you have to consider the fact that companies like NBC, Disney, and Amazon, they're all looking for places to deploy capital and get a return on their investment. And I think we know from examples of the NBA that basketball is a global sport and basketball is a growing sport. So naturally, you'll have people on the men's side and people on the women's side who want to join and participate in that growth. So I look at this deal, I take two things from this deal. The first thing that I take from this deal is this deal solidifies and validates that women's basketball is here to stay. And I say that because for a while it was actually very questionable if women's basketball would even be around in the future. And that's only because the popularity just wasn't there and the profitability was coming into question also. And a lot of people may not know this, but even on the men's side, a lot of these sports owners, at the end of the year, a lot of these owners end up cutting a check, not necessarily making a profit. So you really have to be someone who loves sports and loves the idea of owning a team to want to participate in that business because it's not necessarily the most profitable on paper, but there are a lot of upsides that you can get from being a team owner of a professional sports team. So with the WNBA securing this deal, along with the deals they already currently have, I think this just stronger solidifies the fact that women's basketball is a legitimate business and that some of these athletes are going to make upwards of six figures or more for years to come. And we love to see it. We definitely love to see it. I think that female athletes have been held back financially for so long. A lot of female athletes have to go overseas and play in different countries just to make ends meet when the money definitely is there for athletes to get paid more. When you look at the collective bargaining agreement that has been done in the NBA, there's no reason why something similar can be also done on the WNBA side. So, so yeah, man, I'm excited to see it. I'm glad to see these girls get paid, especially some of these younger athletes, and I'm glad to see the league as a whole get more light and get more recognition. And I'm excited because basketball is a sport that anybody can enjoy. Anybody should be able to play, whether they're male or female, as long as they have the ability and the capability. I say they should be able to make as much money and play for as long as they want. And this is a sport that people enjoy, and this is a sport that a lot of people around the world are getting into for the first time. So, we think that people around the world have already known about this sport, but honestly, this is a sport that's still growing. This is a sport that is still considering expansion leagues. There's been talks about an expansion league in Africa for basketball. So as more stadiums are being built around the world, more avenues and more venues are being built, I think we'll definitely see a lot more sports leagues in general, not just basketball coming into play, but I'm glad to see that women are being taken care of. Our women athletes definitely should be earning more. And this is a great achievement in the history of women's sports. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our next topic. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and share the video, man. We're going to go ahead and go into our last topic of the day. And we're talking a little soccer here. So for my soccer fans, this is the Premier League. And what we're talking about next is Man United suffered double injury blow and loss to Arsenal. Now, I know it's just the beginning of the preseason, but anytime you have a double injury in a game like this, that's tough. I mean, soccer is such a brutal sport. And the Premier League, obviously, one of, if not the most prestigious and toughest leagues to play in the world. And this is a team in Man United who had high hopes for the upcoming season. I mean, I'm just looking at the standings from last year, and Man United had about 18 wins. They were in eighth place in the standings, so they're definitely knocking on the door of that top five. And this is a historic franchise. Manchester United is one of the most prolific sports franchises in the world, if probably the top three or five sports franchises in the world. And they have such a rich history, and so many historic players, legendary players and athletes have come to this organization. So they definitely want to make it back to that top five. And I think they definitely can do it. I like the roster. I think they're going in the right direction. I think they have players who definitely can grow and get better. They have a young team. I think that they have a good coach, and they have all the ingredients to definitely be a top five team in the Premier League. So when you look at the injuries, a double injury is never good. So hopefully the injuries are not too severe and they're able to heal up before the season officially starts, or at least before games start to truly matter as far as playoff contention. But that's the thing about soccer, man. You have to have enough players to account for injuries because it's such a brutal sport. And people, are constantly running into each other, sliding into each other, slide tackling, making aggressive interceptions and things like that, et cetera, et cetera. So, every team is going to have their battle with injuries. and it's just something that they're going to have to fight through. So definitely wish the two players that were injured the best of luck. Definitely wish Holland and Euro a fast recovery. It's tough, man, especially at this stage in the season. It's so early. I mean, guys have just had such a long break coming off the off season, and now they're coming into this new season and they're already battling injuries. So I mean, and this is something that coaches and general managers and people in the staff have to be prepared for. So hopefully they can get their roster together and bounce back from these injuries. And I think they'll be okay. I definitely think that Arsenal is a team that has gotten a lot better. I mean, they finished second in the rankings last year. They have a very solid team. And I think if both teams were healthy, I think Arsenal probably still wins this game. But having a double injury doesn't help anybody. So, I think that this is part of the game. And I think that soccer is such a brutal sport across all leagues, even in the MLS, even in American soccer. I mean, guys get injured all the time. Guys are always playing hurt. But that's why managers have to be the job of a manager in soccer is so much more than just what guys do on the field. It has so much more to do with what guys do off the field, battling injuries, recovery time, keeping guys in the right mentality. That's really what guys get paid for. So I think it'll be interesting as the season progresses. We're going to be keeping our eyes on a lot of these teams in the Premier League. Also, going to be talking about more teams in La Liga in future episodes. We're going to get into more soccer topics, more basketball topics, more football topics, and of course, we're going to cover more Olympic topics moving forward. But that is all the time we have today on this episode of the Good Game Podcast. I am your host, A1K. If you like the episode, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you share the episode with a friend. Until next time, peace.